everybody, and welcome back to A Dinosaur in the Library. I'm Dawn, and I'm here to ramble about books. So today I'm going to be doing a tag video. I found this tag over at Elena's channel, and I will link her video below. You should definitely go check her out. I love her to death. She's awesome. She's a British booktuber. She reads a lot of different things. She reads a lot of YA, some contemporary romance, things like this. But she's just really fun to watch. So definitely go check her channel out. She did not originate the tag. She got the tag from, I think the channel's name is Binge Reader. But I will snag the link from her video to put below as well if you want to check out the original. I was not technically tagged in this, but as Elena said at the end of the video, feel free to do this. So I'm taking the invitation. And the tag that I'm doing is the 9 Circles of Hell tag. So kind of like Dante's Inferno. And some of them, some of the topics I kind of played with a little because I just couldn't think of what exactly to use. So I kept the spirit of that particular number's topic, but kind of added a little or bent it a little bit. So I hope that's okay. But I've got my handy dandy moleskin notebook here, and I'm just going to go ahead and get started. So the first circle is Limbo, a book or series for which you've read the first book but haven't decided to finish. And what I actually did for this one is, or series that you haven't been able to finish. The first one I have is The Unwritten. It's a graphic novel. It's actually a single comic series that I'm trying to get the trades for. This is the first volume, Tommy Taylor and the Bogus Identity. I just haven't been able to catch up with it. The second one, and I know it's a shame, is Lock and Key. I have the first volume. I haven't actually even gotten to read this one, but I know I'm going to love it because I love Joe Hill. And he is the writer of this series, along with the illustrator artist Gabriel Rodriguez. So I'm looking forward to this one at some point. This is a graphic novel series as well, which most of you have probably heard of, and I didn't need to tell you that. The next one I have talked about before. That's Salerna, but I have been assured by the author, Anna Schubarth, that she is hard at work on the second one, and I will be able to read it soon-ish. So I'm very excited about that. Just in case you didn't see that video, I'll link it below. Anna is a good friend of mine, and she came on the channel when they were visiting one weekend and did a video with me. So I will link that below just in case you want to check that out. I can't say the lighting was the best in the world, but it was still a fun video to make, and I'm looking forward to the second in this series. And 2 more for this. I have a lot of books listed on each of these because I don't know if you've watched my tags before. I can never just pick one book, so forgiveness, please. The next one is Moribito, Guardian of the Spirit. I cannot finish this series. So this is a Japanese series in translation. It's a young adult fantasy series, and I loved it. I read it for my international children's literature class a couple of summers ago, or actually just last summer, and I loved it. And as soon as I read this one, I went and found the second one, read it, then I went looking for the third, and it turns out that's published by Scholastic, that they only translated books 1 and 2 into English. There are, I think, 8 in this series, 8 or 10. So, yeah, unless I learn Japanese, I cannot finish this series, and I am extremely sad about that because I really, really did love the first 2 of these. If you haven't read them, you should definitely go pick them up. The end isn't like a cliffhanger on the second one. It just becomes really annoying that you can't read the rest of it. And apparently it was an animated TV series, which I have not watched, but I imagine it was amazing if it was anything like the books. And the last one for number 1, I forgot to bring over with me, and that's The Parasol Protectorate by Gail Carriger. I have read the first one. I read Soulless, and I do want to finish the series, but I haven't gotten the second book yet. I have the third book, but I have the first book in mass market, and I would really like to have them all in mass market. But I'm beginning to see that I can only really get them in mass market if I buy the whole set. And I already have 2 of them, so that's bothersome. So I'm hunting a used copy of the mass markets, and I'll eventually get them. So I am going to finish that series, though. So for fans of that, I'm not like, oh, I don't want to finish it. I haven't yet. Okay, and the second, yes, that's all I had for the first one. The second circle is Lust, a book you cannot wait to get your hands on. I could have rambled on this one for about a year, but we're going to go ahead and just choose one for this one. And that one is Prayers the Devil Answers by Sharon McCrum. Does not come out until the spring, I think May of 2016. I cannot wait for this book. I've talked about Sharon McCrum's Appalachian series, all of her books that we have are right here. Appalachian ballad novels, and I love them so very much, and this is another ballad novel, so I am very, very excited. The last book she brought out was a novella, very short. I loved it because it had my favorite character in it, Nora Bonesteel. However, it was only a novella, and I read it in one sitting, very quick afternoon read, and I was done, so I really need some more of the ballad novels. The third circle is Gluttony, a book or series you could read over and over. So I've got 5 books for this, one of which I forgot to bring over with me. The first one should honestly be no surprise to anyone if you've been here more than 5 minutes. H.G. Wells' The Time Machine, because this is my favorite book of all time. So yeah, I reread it every once in a while. It's a really short read, so it doesn't take much time. I'll reread it every time I read a sequel or companion book that someone has written that's attached to the Time Machine in some way. I will reread the original just to refresh my mind again. I absolutely love that book. Another one that I've sort of talked about on this channel, I think, is Our Lady of the Lost and Found by Diane Chamberlain. And I don't know what it is about this book. I happened to pick it up one day in a used bookstore multiple years ago. I can't even remember. Probably 10 or 15 years ago. And it looked interesting. It was about the Virgin Mary coming to stay with someone IRL, and she was extremely tired. And yes, this was published in 2001, so I picked this up the year it was published. But for some reason, it just really captured my attention, and I've reread it a bunch of times. And this is actually the second copy I've owned. The first copy disappeared somehow, but this one's all underlined and everything. I love it, so you should read this. The next book I have actually is The Shining by Stephen King. I've read this many, many times. I will probably reread it many, many more. I do not like this copy I have. I got it for super cheap, but the back cover is torn and it kind of bothers me. So I'll probably eventually buy another copy of it to replace this one because it's kind of coming apart too. And the last one I have for the next to last one I have for this is a series called Magic Ex Libris, which I've talked about multiple times, by Jim C. Hines. It's the Libriomancer, Codex Born, and Unbound, and then there's a 4th one coming out as well. I love that series. It's one of my favorites. I will always reread that series. And the last book I'm going to show you, you can tell it's been reread, and that is Stephen King's It. And I don't know how well this is going to show up on camera. The book is the cover itself is entirely held together by packing tape. I have had this copy for quite a number of years. The cover was really bent and curled and creased, and I covered it with packing tape just to fix it because I absolutely love this cover. And this is the one I've had the most, I've had the longest amount of time. And it's an old copy, and it's been reread, and it had been read multiple times when I bought it, but it's holding together extremely well. This is a Signet edition, and I don't know when this particular edition was published, but I've reread it many, many times. I used to reread it once a year, but I haven't gotten around to it. And what I should have included in this is also The Hobbit. That's another one I used to reread once a year and have not had the time for recently, but I love that book. Moving on, finally, right? The next one is Greed. The 4th circle is Greed. Book you need / have multiple copies of. Again, The Time Machine. I'd probably have more if I could find more interesting editions of it. I would love to have a very pretty edition of this. This is the one that I picked up one day because I realized I didn't have a copy of it anymore, and it was only $1 in my local used bookshop, and it's super 70s and awesome. And then my Signet Classics edition, which I got this year, just so I can have a nice edition of it with forward and afterward and all that. And this one I got for free, and I've never actually read this edition because it's this kind is usually abridged. They're made for kids, but I thought maybe I could do something interesting with the cover for some art project. because it's when he goes super far into the future. It's got the crab monsters, which they don't actually attack him, but you know, whatever. And there's some interesting illustrations in here, so I picked it up for that reason. And it was free, so I can't complain too much. The other one I have multiple copies of is The Picture of Dorian Gray. This is the reason I have multiple copies of this book. Well, actually, I really like this book, and I'd probably have more than one anyway. This is an awful cover. I hate this cover. I hate it. I hate it. I hate it. Yeah, it just really sucks. And this is the Penguin Classics Deluxe Edition, and I absolutely love this cover. It's got the little flaps, and the illustrations continue onto them, and it's just a really beautiful edition, and Penguin always does a great job of these, and I'm kind of obsessed with their Classics Deluxe Editions, so there's that one. Circle number 5, Wrath, book you hate and would never recommend. There are several books I could have listed here, but then I thought, you know, I really haven't read those all the way through, and while I absolutely despise those books, for multiple reasons, I don't want to say it here because I haven't actually read the book. One book that I have read that I cannot stand, absolutely cannot stand, and wish honestly never existed, that is The 5 People You Meet in Heaven. I hate that book. I will leave it at that, but I despise it. It makes me irrationally angry when I even think about it. So, perfect one for Wrath. Book 6, Circle 6, Heresy. Book that got low ratings, or other people hated, but you loved. And I don't have a copy of one of these, but The Heart of Darkness by Joseph Conrad. I know I've heard a lot of people on BookTube actually say they liked it, which makes me happy. But most people I know hated that book, and, you know, they don't understand why I like it. So, I mean, it's not my favorite book of all time, but I did really enjoy the book. So there you go. And then the other book is The Well of Loneliness by Radcliffe Hall, and this is a 1920s classic of lesbian fiction, as the cover says, and it is a novel written in the 20s, published in Britain by Radcliffe Hall. There was a whole lawsuit surrounding it and all this kind of thing. And, you know, maybe I like it more because it's got a nostalgic sort of thing attached to it, because this was the very first LGBTQ book that I ever bought myself in a regular bookstore. So, but it's got its issues, but I really enjoyed this book. And actually, to the point that I did a paper on Radcliffe Hall and reread this book specifically to do the paper and everything. And I still enjoyed it when I reread it. So, but a lot of people don't particularly like it because of the issues it has, which is probably really something for another video, but there's my answer for that one. Circle 7, Violence, dystopian series with the most violent society. Now, there's a lot of these I could have picked, but I went ahead and went with Hunger Games because, honestly, you've got this government who decrees that every year you've got to send a bunch of innocent kids, well, I mean, some of them may not be so innocent, but a bunch of kids in to kill each other for the sins of their past. I mean, you know, you guys have read Hunger Games for the most part, so you know what I'm talking about, but that's kind of effed up, right? Okay, circle number 8 is Fraud. Cover or synopsis didn't really depict the story. Again, I did not really have a book for this. I couldn't find one on my shelves, and I couldn't think of one. So I'm just going to go with an ugly cover. Picture of Dorian Gray. Just to reiterate the ugliness of this book. So, yeah. And number 9, Treachery. The protagonist started off strong, but grew weaker. Again, one that I really couldn't think of a specific book for. So what I did was I picked one where the story started off kind of strong. The synopsis kind of gave me a good idea that it would be an awesome book, and then it ended up sucking, and that's Triangle, which I forgot to bring over here. I actually did a review of Triangle, and I'll link that below for further discussion of its terribleness. And I think Treachery is a pretty good term for it. Alright guys, that is all I had for this tag. Again, I will leave all those links below so you can go check out Elena's channel and the Originator's channel and some of the videos that I mentioned. And I hope you guys enjoyed this tag, and I'll be back with another video soon. Bye!